In the heart of Old Town San Diego stands a house that history books call the most haunted house in America. It is not a crumbling ruin, not some forgotten shack at the end of a dead road. It is a proud two-story brick home, painted the soft color of old ivory, with green shutters and a wide veranda where, on any ordinary afternoon, tourists snap photographs and children run laughing across the lawn. But when the sun goes down and the last docent locks the heavy front door, the Whaley House becomes something else entirely. It becomes a place where the past refuses to stay buried, where footsteps echo on empty staircases, and where those who have spent the night inside swear that the dead have never truly left. The story begins not with the house itself, but with the ground it was built upon. Long before Thomas Whaley ever laid a single brick, that patch of land was used for something far grimmer than a family home. It was the site of San Diego's gallows, a place of public execution. And it was there, in 1852, that a man named Yankee Jim Robinson was hanged for the crime of grand larceny, after being caught trying to steal a boat. Witnesses at the time said the scaffold was poorly built, too short for the drop to break his neck cleanly, and that Jim strangled slowly, kicking and struggling for nearly 15 agonizing minutes before death finally took him. It was a brutal, botched execution, the kind that leaves a stain not just on a reputation, but some would say, on the very earth itself. Thomas Whaley, a New York businessman who had come west, chasing the gold rush and then settled into a life of trade in San Diego, watched that execution. He stood in the crowd and saw Yankee Jim die. And yet, astonishingly, only a few years later, Thomas chose that exact plot of cursed ground to build his family home. Friends warned him against it. The land was said to be unlucky, marked by violence, unsuitable for a household meant to raise children and build a future. But Thomas Whaley was a practical man, not a superstitious one, and in 1857 he completed construction of what was, at the time, considered one of the finest brick homes in all of Southern California. At first, life in the house seemed to go smoothly. The Whaley family thrived there for a time. Thomas ran a general store on the ground floor, the family lived comfortably upstairs, and the home even served for a period as the county courthouse, county seat, and one of San Diego's first commercial theaters. But almost from the beginning, strange things began to happen. Servants reported hearing heavy footsteps, pacing across the wooden floors of empty rooms. Footsteps that matched no living person in the house. Doors that had been latched shut were found standing open. And more than once, family members claimed to catch the sharp, unmistakable smell of cigar smoke, drifting through rooms where no one had been smoking. A smell that many came to associate with the lingering presence of Yankee Jim Robinson himself, still walking the ground where he had been executed. The tragedies did not stop at strange smells and phantom footsteps. The Whaley family itself was struck by devastating loss inside those walls. Their young son, Thomas Whaley Jr., died in the house as an infant, a grief that shattered his parents. Later, Thomas and Anna Whaley's daughter Violet endured a failed and humiliating marriage, and after her divorce sank into a deep depression that never lifted. In 1885, unable to bear her sorrow any longer, Violet took her own life inside the house, using a pistol in one of the upstairs rooms. Her death left a mark on the family's history, and according to generations of visitors and staff since, a mark on the house itself. Many who have toured the upstairs rooms report an overwhelming, inexplicable sadness that settles over them without warning. A heaviness in the air near the room where Violet died, as though her grief never truly left with her. Over the decades, the house passed through many uses: a granary, a warehouse, a place nearly demolished entirely before preservationists stepped in to save it as a historical landmark. And with each new use, with each new group of workers, caretakers, and eventually tourists who walked its halls, the reports of paranormal activity only grew. Visitors have described seeing a woman in a long, old-fashioned gown drifting silently past the windows, as though going about the daily routines of a life that ended more than a century ago. Others claim to have seen a man in period clothing standing near the staircase, watching, arms folded, before vanishing entirely when approached. Some say this is Thomas Whaley himself, still keeping watch over the home he built, despite every warning. Perhaps the most famous and frequently reported phenomenon is that of a small dog seen darting between the legs of startled visitors, only to disappear before it reaches the far wall. Historical records confirm that the Whaley family did indeed keep a terrier, and many believe that even in death, the loyal animal continues its rounds through the home it once guarded. Children visiting the house have pointed to empty corners, insisting they saw a small dog run past, moments before a parent, checking the area, finds absolutely nothing there. The Whaley House has been investigated more than almost any other haunted location in the United States. Paranormal teams have brought in electromagnetic field detectors, listening for the telltale spikes that suggest an unseen presence moving through a room. Digital recorders left running in empty spaces have captured what investigators call electronic voice phenomena. Faint whispers, and in some cases what many interpret as full sentences, spoken in voices that do not belong to anyone present. Some recordings reportedly capture a low, gravelly male voice, one that investigators have long associated with Yankee Jim, still angry, still restless, still bound to the ground where his life ended so violently. Other captures include the softer voice of a woman, sometimes weeping, sometimes simply whispering a single word that no two listeners can quite agree on. Even law enforcement has at times found itself drawn into the mystery. San Diego police officers called to investigate reports of movement inside the house after hours have described walking through with flashlights. Certain they heard footsteps on the floor above them, certain they saw a shifting shadow pass a window, only to search the entire building and find every door locked, every window secured, and not a single living soul inside. To this day, the Whaley House operates as a museum, drawing thousands of visitors every year, some purely for the history, and many, many more purely for the ghosts. Overnight investigations are conducted regularly and almost without fail. Someone in the group reports something they cannot explain. A cold spot that settles over them without warning, a door that creaks open on its own in a windless room, the distant, disembodied cry of a child in a house with no children present. Long-time staff members, the ones who have worked there for years and grown almost numb to the strange atmosphere of the place, will still admit quietly that there are certain rooms they refuse to enter alone after dark. What makes the Whaley House so uniquely unsettling is not any single ghost story, but the sheer accumulation of tragedy layered into its foundation. A brutal execution on cursed ground, a family that built their home over that suffering anyway, the death of an infant son, the suicide of a grieving daughter, generations of visitors reporting the same phantom footsteps, the same drifting apparitions, the same unexplainable cold. It is a house where history and hauntings have become so thoroughly intertwined that even skeptics who walk through its doors during the day, admiring the antique furniture and restored architecture, often find themselves glancing over their shoulder as the light begins to fade because somewhere in that house something is still walking, something that never agreed to leave.